Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the November user group, which has been slightly delayed once again because of myself. I would firstly like to thank Damien, Marita, and Kerry for all their help this year so far. This year's probably been the biggest turnout that we've actually had, and we've had lots of really positive feedback, not only from these live sessions, but the use of the recordings going on and sharing those moving forward. So once again, we'd like to thank you all for coming in here. It is a user group, so as Damien will encourage you to do, please get involved and put your ideas and that forward, because it could help someone else, or it could help someone else think another step ahead. But today we are talking about feedback. So as you may have remembered last session, we talked about setting up your assessments and your assignments and how we were going to work about that. Today, we're going to talk about the other part of that, and that's giving the feedback associated to that as well. I personally think it's one of those areas where we've got some great tools available, but it also relies on a big shift of how to actually give those sorts of feedbacks as well. So we're going to work on not only the products, but also the theory behind it. And now I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to pass over to Damien.
Thank you. I've received the ball. Thank you, Adam. And good morning, everyone. And for those watching at home, hello to you as well. Why weren't you here? Get here next time if you can. Okay. All right. All good. Folks, it's exciting to have you here. And we've been having a bit of a chat before we even started about feedback and sharing ideas. We've got lots of ideas in the chat from the legends who are in attendance. I'm going to throw in a few extra things to spice up the discussion a little bit. And I'm going to get on my high horse a little bit. Okay. So this might or might not relate to you too much, because I have a feeling that the people who are here and the people who are watching this recording are already the converts. But we need to make sure that we have this conversation, because one of the feedbacks I hear from other trainers and assessors quite regularly, especially those who manage trainers and assessors, is it's really, really difficult for people to change their ways sometimes. Either when you're changing a learning management system and moving into Canvas, or when you're changing procedures within Canvas. Really, we're going to provide you some great tips today about how to improve your feedback. Okay. And I thank Marita and Kerry and Adam for the great ideas that they're going to present. I thank all of you who are here in the virtual room for the great ideas you've already presented in the chat. And I know that you'll have more as we go on. So please, let's keep that discussion in the chat going. If you hear something that resonates and makes sense to you, if you hear something that you think, you know what, that's rubbish, pop it in the chat and let's talk about it. And you might have other ideas about feedback and how to provide great feedback. Pop them in the chat. Don't hesitate. Adam will also put in little links and things, because that's what Adam does. And he's already popped one in there about our community space. So I encourage everyone to go and enjoy that community space. But to start with, just a couple of minutes of comments, and it's not so much theory, but things I've observed that are really important to feedback. And one of them is, let's open our minds. Okay. However we've been doing feedback in the past, the world is a very different place these days. We've had COVID, we've had the emergence of online training, we've got a lot of good stuff going on. And I know that Kerry and Marita did a webinar recently with Canvas all about the trends as to what is happening in the online space here in Australia. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that, go and have a look at that. Because they're uncovering some magical things. And we need to encourage our trainers and assessors to move with the time and adopt new philosophies and adopt new technologies and change the way they're doing things. Something I said to Adam the other day was that, you know, one of the things that Mr. Wed we observe is that people come to us and tell us they're very experienced trainers and assessors. They've been training and assessing for 20 or 30 years. Whenever I hear that, it's usually the kiss of death. Because I find that progressive trainers usually don't want to promote how experienced they are too much. They just let their evidence and their actions speak for them to an extent. We've got to be a little bit careful that, you know, that when we're talking to people, when we're working with people, don't presume because they've got 20 years of experience, they're on the ball with what's happening now. They might have 1 year's of experience that they've repeated 20 times. We need to open our eyes up to new technologies in this changing and continuous world. And so, you know, we're going to present some ideas to you today about how to do feedback differently. Just ask yourself, is this something that can work for us? is this something that we can get our trainers and assessors doing? Because it's a chance for your organization to get ahead of the pack and to, give yourself a competitive advantage against other RTOs that aren't using these technologies and sometimes very basic things to full advantage. All right. So I don't see much in that chat, but if you agree with me, let me know. If you think, Damien, you're talking rubbish, let me know. That's all good. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I'm a really big boy, so I can really handle it. But let's dive in now. I'm going to pass on to Kerry and Marita just for some opening comments along the ideas of these big picture issues. And then we're going to start diving into the specifics. But Kerry, from your experience, you do a lot of work at VetNexus, working with a lot of RTOs and working with a lot of RTOs who are trying to progress things forward by using Canvas. Is what I'm saying resonating on some level to you?
Definitely. I think it's part of that whole process is something that Ravi was talking about in our breakout room as well. And it's the communication backwards and forwards with our students and the user experience that we need to be focusing on and trying to make sure that they're getting what they need from that backwards and forwards communication. And feedback is a key way of doing that. And I think using tools such as the video tool to provide that feedback to students, using our inbox, there's so many ways that we can do that in Canvas. So it is a challenge to get the right processes set up and work out what works for your students and also what works for your trainers, because part of it is getting everyone on board with what that process is. And we were talking the other day, Damien, about change management and getting things happening so that our trainers are comfortable with the way that they need to be providing this feedback and the way that they're going to be delivering online. Someone mentioned earlier when I came back from the breakout room around, some people are too shy to turn their cameras on. So there are going to be some trainers that aren't going to want to use the video tool. Maybe they use the audio tool. So there will be things that we've got to do to work around it. But having that consistent user experience, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Lots of good points there. And one of the things I like to do during these sessions is to get Adam's head going like a bobble doll. And I suspect that Adam will agree that, when people are coming across to Canvas, often they're a little scared, a little hesitant about the change. And we need a very deliberate change management strategy to help people with those changes and understand what's going on rather than just let it happen because the big boss says we're moving to Canvas and we're going to have this new fancy LMS with all these bells and whistles and I want you to use them all. Is that a fair comment, Adam?
It's a very fair comment, because what actually happens is that when you initially, as admins, have gone to onboard Canvas, it's a change for you. Okay. But the change for you may have been led by an executive sponsor. There's a reason why you're changing for this. There's a reason. It's either going to make your life easier. You're either going to open up a new revenue stream by going online. You're going to open up all these different things. One of the big things that we see is that the original people who onboard Canvas, who get the time with the CSN, who embrace the vision and success cycle that we actually put in. And for any of you clients there that are asking what I'm talking about, you can book in some time with your CSMs and we can actually go through and explain this for you. And I'm actually about to put a video in a chat of a discussion that we had earlier this year about modern ways that you can actually do this. But initially you're on board because the change is fresh, it's new. What I do tend to see is that when you're starting to get down to bringing in your teachers, trainers, assessors, or students, they aren't aware of the changes. They don't see the bigger picture. Right? They are just a simple one of the other cogs in the wheel. So it's really important that you encourage and empower. One of the big things I always do, they say, what do you do for a job? I empower people, right? Because the system itself is quite static. How you take the message of what that tool can do for your trainers, assessors, and students, that's on you. That's the bit where our true sense as a CSM comes in. Our goal is to help empower you through that change, because that's probably harder than getting Canvas up and running, to be perfectly frank. It's usually that sort of thing about driving you like, why am I having to use video? because it's more sociable, because and as I think there was a really good thing in there that was mentioned before about having a competitive advantage, right? Using those tools already to create a much more hospitable, likable digital space just lends itself to something that some of the other people may not be doing. And those little things are what's going to set you apart over time. So yeah, I'm just about to put something in. It's a change management workshop that we did for free. It's actually run by a EMEA trainer who actually gets paid to do these sessions. So it's actually a free session. Suggest you watch it. Really cool to watch it with your executive sponsors as well, so they can kind of understand as well. But yeah, I constantly, my ongoing questions once Canvas onboarded is like, how do we get people to start using this, or why do they need to start using this, and driving that forward.
Thanks, Adam. Adam's going to pop that link in the chat. And while he's doing that, we're going to talk with the super patient Marita. Marita, you've been super patient down there in Tasmania. Have you got some general thoughts that you want to introduce at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think from an overarching perspective, the biggest thing is to get, the biggest feedback we get from teachers is feedback takes so long. So it takes so long to mark things. It takes so long to be able to do all that sort of really meaningful feedback per attempt. So the key to get, teaching staff to do this and do it well is to give them something that's really easy, something that's meaningful to the students, that's easy for the students to access with as little error as possible, but also it's really quick for the teachers to be able to do. So if we give them something that's complex and complicated and 5 different places to go, very soon we end up losing it. So yeah, a lot of easiest possible way, I guess, is the best advice that I can give.
And that's great advice. So thanks, Marita. And Marita's, helping, like, I don't know how many TAFE teachers in Tasmania, a lot. So Marita's seen the whole spectrum of people who get on board, say, yeah, I'm into this, and others who probably are a little bit more hesitant, let's say. Kerry, I want to pass on to you at the moment, because you've got a couple of really interesting things that you want to talk about today, and they're dear to my heart. So let's talk about sandwiches and sport and stuff like that. Go for it.
I'm not using your sandwich analogy.
No. You use your own sandwich.
I was actually about to throw him under the bus there, Kerry. So
yes, I won't mention Damien's sandwich analogy. The things that I wanted to talk about today, one of the key things there was going back into that change management process, because as Damien mentioned, I work with a lot of RTOs in assisting with their onboarding of Canvas. So they'll go through their onboarding process with the Canvas team, and as an assisting organisation, we sort of sit behind that to provide the extra assistance to the RTO in working through their program. And what I find is the RTOs that go through the most successful process are those that have a team that are going through part of that onboarding, and not just isolating it to 1 or 2 people. However, also they need to have that champion of Canvas, so the person in their team that's going to lead it and drive it, but involving all those different people, so that if that one person leaves, we've not lost all of the knowledge. But it's also getting that ownership of the team that's going to be using it, and getting their feedback, getting their input, so that they feel like it's part of that they're part of the process, and not something where they are sort of being forced into using this new platform. We want that ownership there. So that was one of the first things, is make sure you include other people in the organisation around some of that decision making, some of the design, how it is that it's going for them, and getting feedback from them around their use of Canvas, rather than just saying, this is our course, this is the way you have to market, this is the way you have to provide feedback. Getting that feedback sandwich going, it's not just around passing feedback to learners, it's also about getting that feedback from the team that's using Canvas, and making sure that we're getting the best possible use out of it. And yes, the canvassators. Damien, you were a canvassator when we went over to Instructicon a few years back when we were allowed to go overseas. Yeah, it's having that person that's going to really promote Canvas within the organisation. And I went to a session at Instructicon over in the States a few years ago where it was one of the huge universities that were switching from, I don't know, it might have been Moodle or Blackboard, and switching over to Canvas. And the whole process around trying to get that happening was quite detailed, and getting the input from the wider trainer, assessor, lecturer team into how it was going to work for them and making sure it met their needs. And in a part of that, yes, it did take years, I think, Adam, and they had posters, they had swag that they gave out. It was just create all this excitement around this change and what we're going to be doing. And yes, that's part of onboarding, but it's also part of our ongoing maintenance. And just, bringing in a system, getting our courses up is not just the full stop. We need to then be going back and looking, okay, what's working, what isn't working, what's new in Canvas. And Adam's going to give us a few little previews of things later. But what else can we do to improve this experience for trainers and for learners? Moving then into that space of providing feedback for learners and getting feedback to them and from them, is we can look at all the different ways that we can use the tools that are in Canvas, but also what other LTIs, learning tool interoperability tools, that we can plug in, that we can then get extra power and feedback for our students and from our students. So what were you sharing there, Adam? The checklist for Canvas success.
Yeah. So just to what a little bit further to what Kerry was saying, and sorry, Kerry, this will probably, as soon as you see this, you'll be like, thank you for sharing that, is that this is the Canvas success model. This is something that we work for every day. Now, your vision of what you want to achieve, and this is usually led by your executive sponsorship, right? Where do your goals fit in? The goals are invisible, but they are kind of linked from the vision to the plan. We then execute that plan and we assess. But there's one thing that Kerry actually mentioned. When you finish the assess, we go again. So in other words, the first thing might be like, let's get Canvas set up, right? But through that assessment, you might find out that teachers and trainers are struggling, right? They're not grasping the concept. So our next plan is like, how do we bring them on? Right, blah, blah, blah. We've also identified that students may have an issue, blah, 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 blah. Holistically as well, though, with this vision, we never make this Canvas focused. This should be your business goals, your learning goals. It's got absolutely nothing to do with Canvas. Canvas actually comes in when it comes to the helping of the executing and the assessing of your plan, okay? That's where we step in, okay? But you'd be surprised how many people we sit down with and go, so what do you want with Canvas? And they go, I've got no idea. Well, it's a genuine question that we do come across from time to time. So I put that in the channel. It's something that you can look at. If you'd like to deal with this with a little bit more in depth, please feel free to speak to your CSM or email CS Team APAC, and we can actually sit down and explain this to you over a call and give you all the tools for you to run away and go and do this sort of stuff. But it's basically like exactly what Kerry was saying. If the vision is there, should you have staff turnover, the vision still remains, right? So that's why it's really important to have executive sponsorship and really high level communication that to push you through those times, because they will be challenging. I have no doubt you've tried to onboard certain people and it's just been tough. I hear about it every day.
And in an industry, Adam, where we've got quite a high turnover.
100%, because what they are seeing now, and I think we mentioned this more about technology. Technology is changing so fast, and the people that can adapt to that technology change, working with systems like this, will become more in demand, so that there's a bigger gap between the traditional and the now. And that's what we're starting to find, is that a lot of people, like when they jump to another Canvas business. I see it all the time. Like it's who's implementing it the best and who's got that vision that helps drive that.
Definitely. And I think, who was it, Gareth? Yeah, Gareth said in the chat, interesting, it would be interesting to review job descriptions at the moment, because comments from Paul and Gareth around the things that we've done in the workplace as trainers has changed significantly in the last 2 years. We were on this steady path of, increasing technology, and then we had this massive spike. So everything that we do has been turned on its head, and what we're doing now is only going to continue in that same direction. So really important to make sure that the team that you've got is ready to go back and review what we're doing. How can we make it better? What else has happened that we can implement? What qualifications are we doing that we can go off in these different directions and use our online tool to further that? And don't just sort of go, okay, we're implemented now, we're just sort of rolling it out and that's where we sit. It's really important to keep revisiting what you're doing. It's an ongoing project, it's an ongoing way of delivering, not just a full stop once you get that implementation done. That's my 2 cents, Damien.
Well, I think it's more like $2,000, but thank you, Kerry. Good stuff. Marita, where would you like to lead us with this discussion, champion?
I think my stuff that I wanted to chat today was a little bit more tangible. So it was a little bit more hands-on, some of the complexities, I guess, that we've seen and some of the ways we've overcome those. So I really wish we'd get a new name out of new student assignment enhancements. It's very long.
So I'll clear that up. It's an assignment enhancement students. Don't call it new. It's already here.
Okay, right. Yeah.
We'll stick to that, and then you don't get confused, because I did the same thing you did, and I just dropped the new and it made more sense.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, that's one less. So I think for us, that's probably been a bit of a game changer. While the interface still isn't quite lining up the teachers thing, the big thing for us is the ease of students' use. So I think for us, this is a no-brainer. So turning that on, what that actually does is a lot of our teachers use the annotated comments, and we all know that can be really successful, or it can also sometimes not be quite so successful, I guess. So there's a lot of complexities around that. The first of is, you can't see your annotated comments from your first submission once you've resubmitted. Things like that. Then also sometimes depending on the browser, it can be a little bit problematic. It can play up at times. So, and that's usually around the browser, but simply it makes it hard. So again, anything that's hard, it just then is dismissed. So with the assignment enhancements for students, what that allows the student to do is be able to flick through each of their submissions, but they can see their annotated comments per submission. So it used to be that teachers, in order to provide students access to that, they would have to download it, attach it to the assignment comments after any subsequent submission. So now the student can actually flick through that really easily, and the feedback it's much easier. I've seen guys use this in some really cool ways. They have some keys for colors and things like that. So that's actually been really successful for our teachers since turning that on. I think the other thing too is that we use the assignment comments for the must-haves. So those are the things that you have to resubmit and repeat, do question 1 and 2 again. We all know feedback has to be better than that, but making sure that, because the assignment comments is what is right up front. So that's the easiest thing for a student to be able to see. So therefore the must-haves, what student must do, sits within there for our guys, and the nice-to-haves are in things like rubrics and annotated comments and things like that. We also restrict our attempts. So we have an assessment policy where a student can undertake 3 attempts prior to needing to, re-enroll or anything like that, we restrict most, even our automatically marked quizzes, to 1 attempt. Because to sit in line with our standards, we have to provide the student meaningful feedback per attempt. The question could be asked that if it's automatic, is it meaningful all the time? Because the mix-up of the results and the mix-up of the selections that the student takes can actually, a teacher can look at that and say, well, actually, I'm thinking that they're not actually getting this part of the topic, or they're not getting that part. If that feedback is automated, the student can go on a pick your own adventure if there's more than 1 attempt, and all of a sudden they end up at the end of their 3rd attempt, they're still not successful in order to be able to complete that task, and all of a sudden they're not competent for that unit. So we find that if we set them to 3 attempts, they'll use the 3 attempts before they actually, sometimes even a teacher is even woken up. You'll find that they'll do it overnight, and all of a sudden the teacher gets there in the morning and it's like, oh goodness, so how do we manage this? So we actually restrict those attempts to 1, 2, things like that. It depending on what the actual sort of task is, I guess. And our guys use screencasting all the time. So they have the media tool, obviously that's native to Canvas, but they also use things like they do screencasting, they use Teams, Zoom, whatever tool it is that you have, and they'll actually screencast, bring the student submission up onto the screen, then they'll turn around, share their camera so the student can see them at the same time, and they'll talk the student through it. They'll make notes on the actual document as well, using annotated comments and things like that. But our students actually respond really well to that. And also to those ones that would actually rather watch the video and get some really detailed feedback. And then they also, when they make their notes, the students that would rather documented feedback. So that actually works really well. We find that we get less resubmissions by using the screencasting. So what they do is they screencast it, and attach it as a file to the assignment comments. And then, yeah, I think that's probably one of the most successful things I've seen with our staff, and less resubmissions, which is nice for everybody because marking takes time.
I was going to say, when Marita told me that yesterday, I didn't grasp. I was like, oh, we're going to screencast. I was like, what are you going to screencast? But what I didn't realize was that by using, I do bring some of the products you can use, like Ensemble, Studio, Teams, Loom, recording your screen with their work on it, and say that you're annotating it as they go through, they're going to get a copy of that annotation. So they're going to be seeing, they're going to get the context to the words of what that person's talking about. Now, you think about how much better that is than simply putting like XYZ in, or just going like, this is great, or this is wrong. You're actually doing what trainer and assessors would normally do, but you're not doing it face to face. And once again, coming back to those little things, these are the little things that really help set the difference apart from you and everyone around you. Because yeah, everyone's using Canvas. Student doesn't know that. All they're seeing is, oh, this is how this person teaches me. This is how this person teaches. This is how I get this feedback. So when I heard that yesterday, I was like, I thought that was very, very cool, and very, very something I'm definitely going to suggest to clients moving forward. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, it works, and the students love it. They really do.
Marita, was there anything else you wanted to talk about at this stage?
Not particularly. I'd like to pick everyone else's brain as well to find out what they're doing as well, because it'd be good to know.
Okay, well, we might talk about, dive into a few of the specifics. We've got a few minutes left for that. Kerry, was there a specific function or feature of Canvas that you want to talk about that helps us with feedback?
Nothing that's not already being talked about, really. The one that David mentioned earlier is in the rubrics, and having a great rubric set up to be able to give that clear outline of what you're expecting. And I've actually started using a mixture of just checklist items and outcomes in rubrics, and just basically dividing it up in terms of, if it's something you want to be able to pull a report on, I use an outcome. if it's something that is more like a checklist item that I'm just marking off, I just put it in there as an item on the rubric. And the reason for doing it that way is if we don't need to report on it, it's much quicker to create if we're not going through and doing it as an outcome. So I've started having some of the things that you need in your checklist there, and then an outcome at the end for satisfactory for the whole task overall, a yes or no, and that's the one that I do as an outcome. The other thing I really like is the use of video, which Marita's been talking about. And I had this as a student a few years ago where I had a lecturer doing it, and it just made it so much easier as a student. Really, it's really personal as well, rather than having the comments there. And I think you were mentioning the comment bank.
Comment library.
Comment library. Yeah, I haven't used that myself, but it sounds like a good one.
Well, I will talk about the comments library because I love it. I love it. So it's a relatively new feature. So for those of you who haven't used it, it's quite simple. Mr. Adam, I'm going to share my screen unless you say, Damien, don't do that. Because I'm just want to...
As long as you're sharing your work and not mine, that's fine.
I'm sharing my work. I'm not sharing yours. Okay, can everyone see that screen that's come up and it says in the middle, this student does not have a submission for this assignment? Oh, it appears as though I'm a bit frozen. That might be killing my internet a bit too much.
It's just saying it started screen sharing, but it hasn't come through yet.
Go faster, internet. Bring it up. Might, yeah, looks like I'm a bit stuffed here. Kerry, do you want to pick things up for us?
You want me to share a screen?
I want you to talk because everything's frozen on my system at the moment. I'm probably going to drop off here in a moment.
Oh no, I've not actually used the comment bank myself. Sorry, what's it called, Adam?
Comments library.
Comments library. But from what you've told me, it allows us to have that general comment list. And actually, I might pass over to Adam because you were talking about what you've been suggesting for people to do with that.
Yeah, so the comment library is a very, very, very new feature. And essentially what it is that if you are going through and marking, say, the same assignment over and over and over again, right? And there's certain things that you need to mention that are consistent in your responses. Like, for instance, if one teacher is using one vocabulary, another teacher is using a vocabulary for the same student, that can kind of sometimes get lost. But what we have tend to see is that if student A is receiving feedback from teacher B and teacher C, which is very similar, you then tend to get this flow and effect of like they're understanding the concepts of what are actually being explained. Now, the comment library can be used to do things such as, is the comment library for the user or the course or just the teacher in that course? So that's what I was going to explain. Thank you, David. That's a great question. The comment library is linked to the actual individual teacher, okay? But those comments can extend over multiple courses. So to solve the problem I was saying earlier, I encourage assessors to get together with the business and create like a set thing of responses or common responses that have actually happened. So when the new person starts, they can copy and paste these canned responses from a Google Doc into their Canvas profile, and then they can share this wherever they're marking. Now, if you ever want to know where the comment library is actually located, if you go into the speed grader, down the bottom where you see the assignment text box, just above that, you'll see assignment comments. That's where you can go in there and add them or choose from ones that you've previously done. So yeah, just to reiterate that, there's not like a set admin level for these responses. The comments that are written are owned by the actual user profile that's set as the teacher. So really important that somewhere in your business or organization, there is set canned responses. We call them canned responses here in Instructure that people can pull off. And, you know, some people want to do something really funky or have a really good sign off. Let them have that little bit of, you know, originality. But as long as the core message they're trying to deliver is quite consistent, that's how people have leveraged off it the best. I personally, when it first came out, I was a bit like, oh, doesn't this take away from the feedback circle? Like, do you know what I mean? Is this really good feedback if they're just picking and choosing? But I did have a discussion with Ruth, who's a CSM, and he goes, well, when you have to mark like 5,000 assignments and all of them have roughly the same response, this thing will save your life. So use it as you will. But as I said, as long as you've got that consistency and that synergy in which to use it, once again, you can really add some additional processes and benefits to not only the trainer or assessor, but also to the student, which is ultimately what we want. So it's more of a streamlined way of doing those things.
Now, I'm happy to report that I am back, by the way.
There you go.
It went
Just
badly
to
there
add,
for a while. Go on, Maria.
I was just going to say, just to add to that too, what you can do is you can edit them. So our guys, actually, our teachers have spent a little bit of time in adding stuff to that comment library that is fairly generic. And then when they go in, they select the comment, it puts the comment into the assignment comments, but then they can kind of add to it, or they can, you know, replace the name or add the name, things like that. So they've found it really efficient.
Yeah. And also second to that as well is that like having you obviously create guides for people to mark, right? They're basically doing what you're doing and then giving feedback to the students based on that guide. This is just another way you're going to make life even easier for them. If they've already got the structure of like, yeah, these are the common issues that we see with this particular assessment or this particular thing, like, yeah. But yeah, Maria, you nailed it. I like it how you can go, here are the set reasons, but I just want to spruik a little bit on my own. Like, this is the way I sign off. Like, you might want to use emojis or something like that. Like, whatever you want to kind of customize it to make it a little bit more familiar for the student.
Folks, it's time for us to pivot. And as always happens at these user group meetings, we're having fun. We're diving right into a topic, and Damien says, we need to stop now. We do need to stop now. Adam, can you transition, please? We need to talk about new features, the new sexy stuff that's coming to Canvas.
Yeah, so as always, there are some really great things that are coming out with Canvas. The first thing you may notice before we even start going into this, the roadmap has actually changed on the Canvas community. It's no longer showing what's coming out in a month. It's now showing what's coming out in the quarter. Okay, you can go see the Canvas release notes at any time, which will tell you specific release information. But what we've just done is we've decided it's a lot easier to show what's happening in a bigger space of time, right? So you can kind of plan for what these things are coming out. So the things that I'm going to go through today, I've just picked out because I think they are more beneficial to the vet RTO space. And I've given them a little bit of context about that. Don't worry about writing any of this down. I will share a copy of this presentation with the recording when I get it up early next week as well. So as long as you take it in, that's the main thing. So the first thing that we obviously talked about is student assignment enhancements. Now, for all those people who are out there that have Studio, the bug has finally been fixed. And that extended for not only Studio, but all external tools, LTIs that were lodging through new, I see now I've got Kerry's new, Marita's new student thing, sorry, through the assignment enhancements feature. So what's actually happened, that's all been fixed. My suggestion, I've been speaking to a lot of my K-12s about this, is that you should be looking to engage teachers to say, hey, the student's UI is going to change and get these turned on for new year. Okay, I'd just like to remind you, when you turn this on, you can't turn it on per course. It's an account-wide setting. Okay, as we said there, I've just put in some pros there. The main one is it allows users to see their previous assignment attempts, including annotations. They literally go to up the top right-hand corner, you'll see here, they just choose the attempt. It's such going to be like, when you actually see it, I can't tell you how excited you will be as a student to use it. It is a lot better UI. It's based on our Studio New Quizzes UI. So it's a lot more intuitive for the actual student. The other really cool part is the review feedback tracker, or sorry, what I call the pizza tracker. As you can see there, that one's currently set for review of feedback. It's basically a 4-part circle that works around, there's like, have you submitted? Has it been submitted? Has it been marked? And review for feedback. So the student can actually go in there and clearly see where their assessment attempt is in the assignment circle. As mentioned before, this is available for you to turn on at an admin level. Just remember, you do have your test and beta environments if you want to go in there and have a quick look. I do say that this will be a forced on feature eventually. So if you want to start getting into it now, getting everyone comfortable before you have to turn it on. That would be a really, really, really great part. And once again, I'll share this. All these links here are hyperlinked to how all the FAQs, the release notes, and also there's an actual separate user group that just purely deals with this. So if you want to make the assignment group better, that's where you can put your voice in. The next one is something that you probably would have already seen. It's already been released. It was actually released in October. And that's, you've now got the option to search the gradebook by the name of the assignment. Now, you might think, whoop-de-doo, like that's not really that good. But what I really would like to see now is people actually using some sort of naming convention in their assignments. So when they go in and start searching for this, it's really easy to find the actual assignment they are referring to. So I don't know, you can put like a little number, a little code, or I've seen people use emojis, believe it or not, like they're going to search for the fern or whatever it may be to help bring these things up. It's just another way that instructors, assessors or trainers can quickly find what they're looking for. Okay, that's purely the nature of it. And as I said before, it really benefits the clients that have a naming convention. You don't have to worry about turning this on. It's already on. So you may have noticed this if you've got the embedded release notes turned on in your help menu, you may have already received information about this in the left-hand side, which is cool. The other one I will mention is the accessibility checker indicator. So to help create a better student experience, what you can do is turn on this feature. It's in the bottom right-hand corner here. This checker notification. Oh, well, okay, that's classic Adam. Do what you do. And now I've just gone back in time. Give me a sec. Classic. Probably just deleted it, to be perfectly honest.
I've got more confidence in Adam's abilities than Adam. He will find it.
Please stand by. Yeah, we're back. I didn't delete it. Can everyone see my screen there?
Yes, it's on the first slide, Adam.
Oh, sweet.
You're up to the accessibility checker.
I'm giving away all my little trade secrets. Oh, don't do this. I've got whatever you've got from your internet, I think, Damien.
Oh,
so,
okay, it's my fault. Yeah.
So the accessibility checker will just identify any issues that could possibly inhibit the learning of certain students based on difficulties they may receive. The other thing that I will say that's coupled with this as well is the Microsoft Immersive Reader is also available for you for free. That technology actually allows you to have all the words on pages, assignments, syllabus, discussions, everything except quizzes can actually be played through the Microsoft Immersive Reader. So having that option there available for students is another great way, especially if you've got students that English is second language, or you're looking at those sorts of things to help give people a better understanding. They might be more of an audio learner than an actual visual learner. I'm a kinesthetic learner, for example, like I need to actually go in there and try and break stuff. That is a really great tool along with this to actually have that ready. So you're actually making sure as you're developing content, it's telling you if there's any issues with it as well. This is, again, a feature option that you will need to turn on. It's the first one under your course and your admin settings, which is accessibility checker notification. I'm going to keep this one really quick. Not so much for those who are using the classic assignment functionality. You will notice that the view feedback has now got a little blue, will have a little blue button as of the 20th of November. A lot of students, when they were coming in, failed to see the view feedback, or they didn't know if they had new feedback. The blue button works along the lines with the speed grader and the releasing of grades. So you can actually go in here and tell if you've actually got new feedback, and can you come in there and view it. Once again, this problem is kind of semi-eradicated when we step into the new assignments engine for students. Okay, so it kind of eliminates that a little bit, but a very cool functionality. It does make it really clear and easy to see. Now,
here comes the big one.
This is what I call Excalibur. And I say this very, very, very excitingly. I have more questions about, especially with RTOs, because how can you manage the access of the user, but also enabling, say, an auditor to come in and see everything the student's done. So previously, what I used to recommend was to people like, you need to go in and change their login or change their password. You just need to disable any way that they can actually get into the system. I agree. It was entirely cumbersome. It was incredibly difficult, and it sucked up a lot of time. Finally, there has been an additional status. Well, I won't say finally because it hasn't been added yet, but it will be added in the next 10 days, is that there is going to be a new user status available for you to use. There will be active, which is your standard enrollment. The second one will be completed. Will be deleted, right? Or completed, right? But we don't want to use deleted or completed, because what that will do is actually removes the student from the Canvas UI. We can't see their submissions. We can't see all their work. We can't see anything, right? We don't want that to happen. This new status of suspended will do the following. And these I've ripped straight out of the developer's notes, so you can't mistake what I'm actually telling you. If you want to leave a student's enrollment intact, but not allow them to log in, use the suspended status. So there is now one column in your CSVs, or if you're using APIs, API calls, there's one status change that you need to do, which will ensure that all your student data is retained in the Canvas UI, but the student therefore can't log in. Now, I have spoken to some providers already of student management systems about this functionality, because I believe if you're using a student management system, this sort of control should lie with them. In the interim though, this will be a Canvas only feature, right? So you'll only be able to use it in Canvas until the student management system catches up. The other catch is all your users must have a SysID in Canvas. That might make some of you quiver, because I know it's not one of those things that we seldom do, but what you've got to do is get in the habit of, when you create a user, it asks for a student information, like a SysID, simply put in the student's email address. If you've got a student management system, it's doing all the hard work for you. You don't need to worry about this. But for those who are manually looking after their Canvas instances, who don't have a student management system or are doing this all well, they will then. Yes, they will. So that's an interesting suggestion as well, David, and I was just about to get to that, but good question. When the student is suspended, right, it means that the student can't log in, okay, but we can still see their work. If they've completed that, you've also got enrollment statuses as well. So you can complete the enrollment. You can move them to a separate, I don't recommend this for any other systems, but if you're moving them into a different section, which is like a completed section, I totally get that. But what I would prefer to see people do is actually complete the enrollment, because you can easily go to the speed grader and actually select to include completed enrollments and bring them back up. It's all visible there for you. So great question, David. You stole my thunder once again, but that's exactly where I was going. So, oh, you see, you added a sneaky button, Paul. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to undo all that work. No, I'm just joking. No, that's really good. But that's another classic example of how you can customize Canvas to help you out. So for those of you who are having any questions about this functionality, is actually due to come out in the next week to 2 weeks. I'm going to put together a little video on how people can use it, because I think a lot of people are going to ask me how to manage it. So something that's really important for you as well, this functionality is actually available now in your beta environment. So if you want to go in there and test it, you can, okay? But the key thing I'll say to all of you is just making sure that all your users have a SysID. That's the key thing, because if you do that, you can use the CSV form and it's very simple to manage. So yeah, once again, everything included in your lovely user costs. So we will not be sending you a bill for anything, as much as some of us want to. I don't think that's cool. But anyway, team, I'd like to thank you so much for the time. And once again, I do apologize for running late. I suppose the real question is, do we want to do one more before the end of the year, or does anyone kind of just really keen to just get into December and really start running downhill? That's my last question.
Pop a yes or no in the chat. It's
Yeah.
simple. Yes or no, just pop it in the chat and Adam will study them.
Okay, if you're going to put yes,
those yeses. Okay. Yep.
If you're going to put yes, what do you want to talk about?
Adam, we're pretty much out of time, dude. We're a little bit late. So can you do me a favor? Could you pop your preferred email address in the chat?
Sure, I can.
And I'm going to ask everyone, I'm going to implore that you write an email to Adam and tell him what you want to hear.
How about I put, what do you want to hear about on the community space, and you can just answer all in there.
Your choice. Pop the link in there.
I'm just you're gonna upset my inbox, and I don't like that. So what I'll do is I'll put it on the community.
Okay.
That should be fine.
Grace wants to know if there's going to be a Christmas theme again. Grace, you can wear your reindeer antlers. Okay. No problem, Grace. Okay. Just the antlers. You don't have to put on a full reindeer costume. Okay. All right. Just waiting for Adam to pop that link in the chat where you can jump on.
I'll develop it. What I might do is I might develop it and email it out with the recording when I get everything up.
Okay, there you go.
That'll work. Yep, that's probably going to be easier. Yep.
All right, cool. Folks, I want to say thanks to Marita and to Kerry. Marita, TAFE, best TAFE in Tasmania, folks, no doubt about it. And Marita's responsible for all the Canvas stuff going on, so good on you. And Kerry from Vet Nexus. Kerry, can you pop your email address or something in the chat if people want to contact you, please?
Sure.
Because Kerry is all things Canvas and lots of other things that her folks, her team at Vet Nexus does. Adam, you want to say something before I finish? Thank you, Kerry, for the email. Yes, Adam?
Everybody knows how to reach me. Do they?
See, you don't want to get plundered by too many emails, do you?
No, our team will probably deal with most of them. But as I said, as your customer success manager, like as we talk about those big picture idea, that's our strength. Understanding, look at us like consultants, right? To help the technology go where you want to go. But as I said, as long as you've got a clear idea of what you're trying to achieve, that's where we ultimately come into our own and really, really, really do help you.
Yeah, they actually help. It's unbelievable. They actually help if you have questions. So don't hesitate to contact the customer success team for APAC. Adam and his team are amazing. I think that wraps it up. Anything else? Can we call it quits? Going once, going twice. Thank you, everyone. Keep well. We'll see you again before Christmas, and take care. And thanks for attending today. Please tell your friends. See you later.
Thanks so much, Damien, for hosting.
No
Bye.
worries. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.